My first concept is gaining audience attention on page 110. This concept shows different ways that you can grab the attention of your audience so that they stay involved throughout your entire speech. This concept jumped out at me because I was always curious how many different ways there was to draw an audience's attention. They tell you words that are sounds, so like whop, whoa, wow. Those are all kind of associated with a sound. Those are usually attention grabbers that you use when you're in an elementary school, which is what I always remembered. But I find that this concept is important in public speech because it helps you find a way to keep your audience attention, which is one of the largest keys in having a successful speech. Without attention grabbers, your audience may begin to grow impatient and they may not pay attention very long throughout your speech. I plan to use a couple of these attention grabbers throughout my speeches. I plan to place them strategically in places that I think I might lose a little bit of people's interest, so that right when they're starting to lose interest, I can just draw them back in. My second concept is strive for simplicity on page 117. In layman's terms, it just means keep it simple. So this concept jumped out at me because I used to do the exact opposite when I would write papers or speeches. I always strived to have the bigger words and have things that maybe people had never heard of before, and it just began to overcomplicate things, and by doing so I just confused myself as well as my audience, which just didn't cause for a very good speech or paper. Striving for simplicity is very important in public speech because many times people add too much or try to talk more sophisticated and they lose what you're trying to say altogether. Overcomplicating things causes your audience to lose interest, and essentially everything just goes downhill from there. Overcomplicating, you start to second guess yourself, second think, and sometimes you don't even understand what you're saying yourself, so you're just spitting out words that you want other people to understand, but you don't quite understand them yourself. After reading about this concept, it helps me keep in my mind that simple and straight to the point isn't a bad thing. So stick to what I know and what I wish to convey to my audience. My third concept is choosing concrete language and vivid imagery on page 118. Concrete words and vivid imagery are used to engage an audience member's speech, which can bring a speech to life. This concept jumped out at me because as a sign language major, I am challenged to create pictures through signs and visuals, including gestures as well. The part about concrete language and words drew my attention because I wasn't honestly sure what it meant at first. So it just means picking words that are specific, that you're able to describe and you can physically sense them. Vivid imagery in public speaking can make you feel like you're watching a movie because the pictures begin to flow through your head. So if you're explaining something using this concept of concrete language and vivid imagery, you are continuing to spark the minds of your audience, and they're thinking. These pictures start splashing in front of them. So they're not just hearing words anymore. They're actually being able to turn them into a picture. This concept will help enhance my speech so that I find words to describe the oppression of people who are deaf, and also paint a clear image in the minds of my audience as to what autism is, what it meant, why it exists, and how can we minimize it. So these are the concrete languages and visual imagery that I want to create for my audience and get my point across.